Me as I try and work with this wireless mic this morning. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here with you this morning. I bring you greetings on behalf of the Tennessee Baptist Children's Home throughout the state of Tennessee. It is an honor. I do want to start by saying thank you, not just for having us, but for your support, for your prayers. We couldn't do what we did without you. I want to start this morning by sharing a little bit of information about the Tennessee Baptist Children's Home. I want you to kind of feel like you know a little bit more about the ministry when we leave here today. I always bring word from the Lord while I do it, but I want to start first by giving you some factual information to help you understand what you're giving to, what you're praying for. Our Tennessee Baptist Children's Home is made up of 6 locations throughout the state of Tennessee. We start over in Memphis and Millington. We come to Brentwood, up into Oakdale, which is close to Knoxville, about 45 minutes outside of Knoxville, up to the north east corner in Kingsport, and then all the way we drop down to the southeast corner in Chattanooga. So those are our 6 locations. Those 6 locations, 4 of them have multiple homes. Kingsport and Oakdale are single homes where they're at. Your giving through the Mother's Day offering and the cooperative program provides us with 55% of our budget. And that's a lot of our budget, folks. Just from your giving. Anything your church sends in is considered part of the Mother's Day or cooperative program money for our funding purposes. Somebody asked me just yesterday, said, well, 55% comes from that. Where does everything else come from? I sat down with them and said, 45% more comes from individual gifts. That means if somebody just mails a check to our campus or our administrative office, that goes into there. But there's businesses that actually write grants for us. We get grant money. We get some corporations give us sponsorships. People may, as they pass away, have found our ministry to be something that they really love, and they will leave part of their estate to us. And finally, we have one other area, and I want to share that with you, and I want to hopefully make you understand something. We have a website, and then everything you guys are receiving, if you pick up the flowers this morning, and I know I'm hard on that camera, maybe I keep moving more. But if you pick up those flyers, you're going to have our website, and it shows our financials on that website. The one thing that shows up is that we have quite a few, it says $1 million, but they are locked in. People have left money and said, okay, this is here, but all you can use is the interest money off of that money. You can't spend this money. But it sure looks good on a financial statement, folks. But today, in today's time, that doesn't help much. Because we're drawing about 2% interest on any money we've got. So, with the economy the way, if you go to the bank and open up your savings account, it's the same way for you. So that's how we determine our money comes in. In the year of 2010, we cared for 220 students. We used to call them children, but most of the kids we deal with now are teenagers. And they're not children. So we call them students. Thus far in 2011, we have cared for 137 students. We accept kids ages 5 to 18. However, most of our kids, like I said, are middle and high schoolers. The average stay for a child with us is approximately 30 months. That's the average. Now, it sounds like a pretty good number, but when you look at kids, as I looked at the video, I know some of those kids, I was actually there for some of the filming of those. Some of that filming was done actually in my home. One of the young ladies that you saw had been in the home since she was 5, and she graduated at age 18, so she'd been there 13 years. So, if your average is only 30 months or 2.5 years, you got somebody way down here, you got these kids that are up on the other end that causes that to happen. Our students attend local schools in their community. We've actually been around a long time before our community was there. So, but we schools. Our kids are able to participate in school sports. They can hold down jobs. If they meet certain criteria, they'll even be allowed to drive. We try to make it as much of a home as we possibly can. We don't have fences to hold them in. I mean, it's just a big community that can share the love of Jesus. Students come to us for a variety of reasons. I'm going to share a few stories this morning with you. I'm going to start with a young man named Bill. He was a smart student. His mother and stepfather expected Bill and his brother to be perfect. And when I mean perfect, I'm not just talking about, you know, he makes good grades. But he was one of those where when it got time to wash pots and pans, folks, at my house, nobody washes my pots and pans. Because nobody gets them clean. They just don't get them, kids don't get them clean enough for me. And I cannot stand to walk into the kitchen and say, okay, I'm going to wash my pots and pans so that I can cook tonight. So, but Bill was one of those kids that he was a perfectionist. Everything was perfect. He could wash my pots and pans. The sad story was, Bill was there because his mother and stepfather had been arrested. They had been arrested on charge with child abuse. Bill and his brother had been beaten. I didn't understand how terribly bad until I accompanied him to court. And as I sat there, as we went through the procedures for them to pick a jury, we sat outside while they were picking this jury. But we had to be there in case they were ready to start the trial. As soon as the jury was seated, they were going to start. So we had to be there. We sat there and waited. And then Bill got called in to testify. And the prosecuting attorney pulled out the pictures. The pictures of young men that had been beaten with a clothes hanger that had been wrapped by an extension cord that had been wrapped with duct tape to the point that you could see the flesh. That's the kind of kids sometimes we have. You understand? We get a lot of kids from single parent families. Today, the national average is that 1 in 4 children are raised in a single parent family. Where I work, that number is quite a bit higher. On our campus, I believe that number is about 80% of our kids are from single parent families. See, mom's got to work. Sometimes 2 jobs in order to provide for her kids. And while she's at work, there's nobody to care for the kids. So that's where we step in. Maybe Johnny didn't go to school. Because mom was already gone to work and he was left at home and he didn't get up. And after several days of doing that, they send out the police because they've got to send a truant officer out there because the child had been in school. But mom still needed to work. What else could she do? Sometimes we get kids because grandma and grandpa are trying to raise them. I may step on some toes here this morning, but I'm going to just be honest with you. The number one problem we have in America is the breakdown of the American family. When mom stopped staying at home, and I'm not a male chauvinistic kid, my wife works right alongside me. When mom stopped staying at home to take care of the kids, and she had to get out and go to work so that we could put food on the table, we began to have problems. I remember my grandmother many a day staying at home to raise the kids. She made sure that, and she would help with the grandkids because at my age, my mom had to work. But something happened. We no longer have that. You've got to find values. You've got to find a way to get back to that. Yet, while many of our students come to us at no fault of their own, they're looked down on. Some of them are even made fun of. Our campus in Brentwood has been there exactly 100 years this year. In the month of April, they broke ground 100 years ago to build our campus. In October or September, we're going to celebrate 100 years that it's actually been open. And on the front gates, as you come in, there's two great big pillars. And on one side it says Baptist, the other side it says Orphanage. The 100-year-old pillars that are still standing there. And the kids, as they get on the bus and they ride to school, I can't tell you the number of times kids come home to me and said, Mr. Glenn, I've been made fun of because I live at the Baptist orphanage. I'm not an orphan. I still got a mom. And as I think about that, I wonder how many times we look down on other people. I really had to have a gut check this week. I have, and I hope I don't start crying this morning, because I've spent many hours in tears this morning. I had to take a gut check. Because the Lord just laid this on me like a 20 minutes. Are we being Christ-like or are we being Christ-less? Are we judging folks? I brought in a clip that we were able to pull up. I didn't format the right way for y'all. And it's out of a movie that some of you may have seen, some of you may not have, and it's not considered one of the best movies out there, but I want to describe the scene to you. It's in the movie Pretty Women. And the lady in the movie is a prostitute. And she's been given some money, and she's in a very affluent area. And she's asked to go in and buy a dress to accompany this successful businessman to some event. And as she walked into the store, the ladies looked at her. And she asked them how much this particular dress was. And the lady in the shop says, "We don't have it in your size." She said, "I didn't ask if you had it in my size. I asked you how much it is." And they were very politely asked her and very quickly to leave. And I wonder sometimes in our churches, do we look at people as they walk in the back door because they're not dressed just quite like we are. Maybe they didn't put on what we consider their Sunday best. Because we get so wrapped up that we want to judge them because of what they're wearing. In Luke chapter 6, verse 37, those of you that have your Bible, I'm going to give you a second to get over there, okay? I want you to see this. Luke chapter 6, verse 37. And I'm just going to give you the first portion of that verse, and it says, "Judge not, and ye shall not be judged." It doesn't say, judge if you want to. It says, judge not, because you don't want to be judged. You know, we're all imperfect. And I have to tell my kids that all the time. I'm not a perfect house parent. There's nothing that I'm imperfect. I still have to get down on my knees before the Father of heaven and confess my sins to Him just like me. I'm not perfect. And I'm just going to be honest with you, if that had been a great big centimeter out there at your front entrance, I'd be kind of afraid to have to walk through here. Because I'm not perfect. I'm a sinner. I'm a sinner, but there's only one difference. I'm saved by grace. And that's the difference. Yeah, you can judge me for what I was wearing or not wearing. You can judge me for the way I talk or don't talk. You can judge me for where I come from or don't come. Amazingly, in the scriptures, 71 different times are we told not to judge. I was amazed as I went through and I was doing the research for that, to find 71 times it says not to judge. It may be a specific group not to judge. It may say do not judge the widows or the children. But 71 different times the Bible gives us instructions that we are no longer to judge. And yet, we're a society that judges people. Recently, a young man in my cottage got into some trouble. I was called both by the school and the court system over it. I had to be the one, or chose to be the one, to go pick him up when he got in trouble. I chose. I was actually 2 hours away at that time. I was with another child, setting up a visit for him. And I picked him up from the jail and brought him back to the campus. And I shared this message with him. I love you, but I don't love what you did. You see, that's what we're called to do. A few days later, we were sitting down just talking. We were trying to talk through what was going on in his life. And he shared with me, he said, you know, I think people are looking down on me here. And I stopped and I just couldn't believe it. And I went home, and that's when it really hit me. I visited with him for a while, and I went home, and I started thinking, right here, in this ministry that we say we're here to love on children, we're criticizing one of our own. See, he understood he was wrong, but we all need to be loved. We all need to be accepted. It doesn't matter if you come from the wealthiest families in this community, or if you come from a community that's the least. We all want to be loved. We all want to be accepted. We all want to be a part. We don't want to be judged for what we've done. We want you to say, you know what? When you walk in those doors, we want to love you like Jesus would love you. And when we start loving like that, people keep coming. Because everybody wants that love. The scripture says in Luke chapter 19, verse 10, says, for the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which was lost. He came to love those that were what we would consider unlovable. Maybe you say, well, I just can't love them because they got in trouble for the drugs that they had in their home. Or maybe I can't love them because I was there and that house was nasty. You love them as the person. You don't have to love their situation. I didn't understand that very well. A youth group came to one of my youth groups that I was at, and they started saying, you got to go out and you got to find those folks that are unlovable. That people won't know anything to do with. And when you start doing that, then things will start happening. 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7. And I'm going to use the latter half of the verse so that you get a better understanding. It says, for the Lord seeth not as man seeth. For man looketh on the outward appearance, but God looketh on the heart. Folks, I don't know you. I don't know your hearts this morning. But the man upstairs knows everything about you. He knows how lovable you are. He knows if you've got a problem. He knows if you even have a relationship with you. He knows everything. To further explain the love of Christ, I want to share this story with you. God this week has just really put this over and over and over in front of my face. And I guess I really need it as much as anybody. But I was having some problems with one of the locks on our commissary. It would automatically lock on its own. And we have a security key code where you just swipe a card and you go in, but this other lock would lock up the door and we couldn't get in. We couldn't get in, and they'd all have to call me to come bring a key to get into the commissary so they could get groceries for the kids. And so the gentleman that came out was a deacon in another denomination church. And as we were just visiting and talking, he said, "Can I share a story with you?" And I said, "Sure." I'll use a story because it's a true story that happened in this church. Their church helps homeless people through a program, and you may have heard of it. It's called Roof the Inn. They have a big facility downtown Nashville, but they can't house everybody. So in our area, the churches open up their church usually about September, and we usually go till April, through the end of April when it's cold, so that those people have a place to go to lay down at night. And each week it's a different church, each night a different church hosts, so that there's always a church that's got open. This man's church hosted homeless men. He said we usually have about 20 of them come, and what they do is they come in, they feed them, give them some food for the belly, and then they give them some food for the soul. He said, so we fed them, and I shared the gospel with them that night. And he said, what we typically would do is we would play games. They have a multi-purpose room. On one side they set up the cots, and on the other side is where they eat and they fellowship with them and try and show them Jesus' love. And as they did that, he said, one of the ladies walked over to him and said, "Brother," he said, "Yes." She said, "See that man over there?" And one of the men was laying down on the cot. He said, "Yes." "Well, he's drunk." And he said, "Sister, is he in any way out of line with you?" "No." "Did he say anything that makes you?" "No, but I smelled it on his breath." He said, "What do you want me to do?" She said, "Well, I think you ought to do something." And he said, "What would Jesus do?" He's laying down. He's not going to bother anybody. We get one more chance in the morning, because before they left, they would share the gospel once more time. We're going to give him a meal before he leaves, and then we're even going to give him a sack lunch so at lunch he's going to have something to eat. Would Jesus have me going out? Sister went on her way. When it moved on, man slept. Next morning, they got to share the gospel again. He didn't tell me whether the guy ever got accepted or was even admitted that he had a relationship with Christ. But what he did was the same thing we do at Tennessee Baptist Children's Home. We planted some seeds. We don't always see the fruits that we plant. You plant an apple tree, it takes many years before you actually see apples on it. Many years. And it grows and grows. And sometimes God moves you out of the way and you move somewhere else. You never see fruit out of that tree. But there's still fruit going to be produced from that tree. Last year at Tennessee Baptist, we were able to see 3 professions of faith. It's not very big enough. But we saved 3 souls. We planted many seeds. Because not only do we get to plant seeds to these children, but because we work with families, we get to plant seeds in those families. And we may never know when those families can accept Christ. We might judge somebody that God really wants us to do something to help. I'm going to share a poem with you. This poem is not something I wrote. I'm just going to be honest with you, it's not even something I had planned to share until 2 nights ago. As I was packing up some things that walked away with me, this was laying in the door. I don't know why it was in the door, but God knew why. God had a plan. And my eyesight's going a little bit, so I'm going to put on these glasses so that I can see it a little bit better. titled, Please Don't Judge. The author is Sarah Beth Davis, age 23, from Springfield, Missouri. Please don't judge me by my face, by my religion or my race. Please don't laugh at me at what I wear, or how I look, or do my hair. Please look a little deeper, way down deep inside. Although you may not see it, I have a lot to hide. Behind my clothes, the secrets lie. Behind my smile, I softly cry. Please look a little deeper, and maybe you will see the lonely little girl who lives inside of me. Please listen carefully to her. She'll show she's insecure. Please try to be a friend to her and show her that you care. Please just get to know her, and maybe you will see that if you look just deep enough, you'll find the real me. I don't know where you're at with God this morning, but I do know one thing. He loves you. And he wants you to be a part of his family. And he's not a judgmental God. He's willing to take all. It don't matter what you've done in your life. You could have killed a person. You could have robbed the local bank last week. There's no stipulations on what he will do. He says, I'll take anybody that comes. He said, just come. Come to me, and I'll give you rest. See, he's not going to judge you. He's going to go to the Father, and he's going to say, Father, he's one of mine now. Forgive him. I paid the price for it. Yes, there's consequences in the world for maybe some of the things you've done, but not with Jesus. He's not judging. You can lay those things aside, and you can find rest this morning. Whatever your need is, our God is able to supply those needs, and he's not going to judge you for them. So I'm going to ask your pastor to come and to close this however he sees fit. May God bless you.